You're dead wrong about Usopp. Now, this is a character going into One Piece I was very keen on getting to know. I've always enjoyed his design when looking at it, so I wanted to know what his character was really all about. Thankfully, this arc, much like the last two arcs, is all about introducing Usopp so that we can understand the character better. And let me tell you all, it was pretty interesting reading this one, as I think this character is both really freaking cool, but also, well, we'll get into it later in the video. And you probably know what I'm about to talk about already. But with that out of the way, this series is patron supported. Becoming a patron at the $4.99 tier will get you the next 3 One Piece videos on Syrup Village Part 2, Baratie Part 1, and Baratie Part 2. So head on over and become a member. Now, do it! Or I will consume your soul and rip out your heart. We pick up in the Syrup Village arc with Nami, who is just fixing up Luffy's Mugiwara that he immediately pokes a hole into. Hey, good one, Luffy. Smooth. So Nami literally pokes Luffy in the eye and basically says that poking him with a needle is the only thing that will work, as hitting him won't do anything. Now, on one hand, yes. On the other, seems a little mean, but my wife is Nami, so no comment? But not to worry, they spot an island and immediately head that way. Though, while doing so, I love that they both acknowledge that Nami is right about them having no plans or directions at all, which promptly turns Nami into a raging water beast as they go on without her. I think there is something to be said here, which is that their dynamic has really grown together as a group. Nami seems to be enjoying her place in this group and benefits by, well, not being alone and having backup, while on the flip side, Luffy and Zoro get someone who is quite handy at many things. We've already seen that Nami can sew things, but is smart enough to call out Luffy and Zoro on their bad judgment calls of going out to sea with no food or water, which is surely a death wish. In other words, we can really already see the effects Nami is having on the group, which is freaking legit and rad and hella, yo? So they arrive on the island where they find, nothing but forest. While searching around, Luffy seems to just keep finding stuff to mess with while Zoro sleeps and Nami slowly but surely loses her mind, slipping away as the gears turning in her head slowly start cracking, surely leading to a total collapse of her psyche if Luffy grabs one more furry rabbit snake. Though it does not take that long, as the forest judgment makes their disembodied voice heard as they warn them to not take any more steps into the forest. And so Luffy gets shot by none other than, drumroll please, Gaimon! Yep. A fucking Chia pet mimic. So, interestingly enough, Gaimon for the last 20 years has gotten stuck in this chest, and to top it off, as Nami said, the island is abandoned too. So he's just been on this island, alone, for 20 years. Just like me. So Nami asks Gaimon about the Red Line. She goes on to explain that there are 2 oceans in the world of One Piece, and the land which splits the 2 oceans is called the Red Line. Interestingly enough, if you take a globe and actually draw a line going the opposite way, on the opposite side is the Grand Line. Though only Gold Roger was ever able to conquer this route, meaning it's actually one of the most dangerous routes a pirate could take. Gaimon even backs this claim up, revealing that it's more like a pirate's graveyard, as over the years he's seen countless ships return from the Grand Line in horrible shape. Many returned with their crew with spirits that are dead and expressions full of anguish and regret. Many wondered, based on their looks alone, if they encountered a horrible monster, and from there never talked about what happened to those pirates. Going on, Gaimon reiterates that this mythical One Piece could just be hearsay and rumors, and a simple tall tale blown out of proportion. This leads into the backstory of our Chia pet mimic, Gaimon. 20 years ago, aboard a pirate ship, they found a treasure map. Though following it and uncovering its treasure, they found something quite absurd: an empty chest. So, not knowing what else to do, Gaimon, looking for the treasure nobody could find, climbed the one place nobody had searched yet, There, he found the treasure they were looking for, but he fell off the cliffs and into the broken treasure chest, and by the time he woke up, his crew had left him, and he was stuck within the confines of this broken chest. Ever since then, Gaimon has been repeating the same process of scaring pirates away from the treasure that he himself can't reach, in the hopes that he may one day be able to claim it himself. So Luffy climbs the cliff to bring down the treasure chest, to which they find nothing. All along, the treasure chests were empty, though Gaimon had actually thought of that conclusion before. So when it finally happened, he decided to, from there, not take Luffy's invitation to join his crew, but instead stay and protect the island from pirates. The reason for this is rather noble. He grew to love the island and all of its strange and unique animals, so he wants to protect them as much as he can. I really enjoyed Gaimon as a character, and as a person. He spent 20 years on this island alone, protecting the treasure he knew probably wasn't going to be there anyways. And with enough time, he grew to love the island itself, as the treasure he discovered wasn't in the chest, it was the island itself. The unique, furry rabbit snakes is what he grew to realize was that treasure all along. So, realizing how special this island was, he kept protecting it and still decides to protect it from the pirates that will inevitably come for the treasure as the forest judgment. Honestly, I love his character, and he's great and a unique addition to the cast already. Now, back at sea, Nami points out how unprepared they are altogether, how they'll need more equipment, a better ship, a larger crew, and more preparation for the journey ahead. In other words, they need to catch up on some grinding and level up in some dungeons, which, to be fair, is fair, as there are only 2 small ships strapped together currently. And currently it's, as well, in terms of the crew, it's just a navigator, the ship captain, and the ship captain's right-hand man. And no ship. But this is where we finally get to the star of this arc, Usopp. So, this is Usopp. Usopp is literally One Piece's version of the boy that cried wolf. Well, in this case, the boy who cried pirate. But with a twist. The man will warm the village of pirates every morning, then immediately go, JK bro, it's just a prank, you're on punked. And he does this so much that he gets some sick satisfaction from it as well. I mean, this man loves being chased by the village people. It makes no sense. He even gets children to do the same thing for him, like, what? So, starting off, Usopp is already one of the most annoying characters so far in One Piece. I literally thought while reading this that Usopp would be DOA and remain that way. That's how bad this introduction is in terms of, well, at least his personality and stuff. Though, I want to ask you guys, what were your first impressions of Usopp? Because I feel like I'm somewhat alone in this, based on what I've seen. So, let me know in the comments below. Better yet, when Usopp confronts our heroes, he announces himself as the leader of the village and how they heap praise upon his name. My name, Captain Usopp. I don't know why I said that like that, but the truth is literally the complete opposite of what he just said, and it's not like this lie sticks anyways, as Nami immediately calls him out on it. His response is to call Nami a devil, which is just not true. Just because she manipulates situations, sells Luffy out on multiple occasions, steals treasure from pirates, and is my wife doesn't mean anything. Not a devil. Gabby Goat approved. So with no better way to recover from this situation, they go to a tavern where they talk about the village and what's going on in it. Usopp immediately brings up that while they don't have any massive ships, there is a mansion owned by the richest person on the island, and he knows the owner. That owner, as in his own words, describes her as sick and bedridden. The year prior, the girl had lost her parents to sickness and illness. Thus, all she had left was a mansion full of money and servants to boot. So Nami and Luffy agree to give up looking for a ship on this island, though Usopp has a proposition. Make him their captain. And that's all. That's the proposition. No, really. He really just says that plainly, as if they'll take that seriously. This leads us to the introduction of the Mistress, Mistress Kaya. The woman who fell ill after her parents' tragic death is left alone in a huge mansion with only the servants left behind to help maintain her health, along with the head servant, Clahador. Clahador. Kaya is rather interesting, as she's the first person we see so far treat Usopp like a decent individual. In fact, she thinks the world of Usopp. Most interesting. It turns out that it's Usopp who was going to this woman in his free time and just spending it with her, listening to her troubles and just sharing stories back and forth. You know, just hanging out. And this is cool, because it shows that while Usopp is mightily annoying and quite a nuisance, his weakness is clearly pretty blonde girls who are sick. I get it. I've been there. My weakness is tomboys. Speaking of, when are we going to start that tomboy revolution?
What?
Anyways, Clahador doesn't want Usopp around Kaya whatsoever, and for this reason, the two regularly butt heads. Even though Clahador is clearly just looking after her and her health, well, actually, he's an interesting factor in this immediately, as the first thing I thought of is, this guy is your servant, lady. Just give him the severance package if he's being annoying, but hey, that's just me. As Kaya's relationship with Usopp, it's pretty clear she humors his lies and tall tales as well. She knows they're lies. She enjoys Usopp's company, and for that reason, just sort of keeps him around. To me, that's interesting, because she's the only one around him actually giving Usopp respect and listening to what he has to say. On the other hand, she's the only one enabling him, and on top of that is getting company and in some way clearly likes him for who he is. It's actually multi-layered, and that's what I really like about reading interactions between these two. It's just so nice, and it also makes sense. So what happens next is Luffy goes to the mansion to ask Kaya for a boat. Yep, seeing as she's rich and would have access to something like that, of course. But just as he asks, they're interrupted by Clahador, who wants them to leave the premises. It's pretty clear now that Clahador is overstepping his boundaries as a servant, micromanaging everything. He even insults Usopp by calling him the son of a pirate and amounting him to no better than his late father. Even for Usopp, that cuts a little too deep and is a little too out of line. He even goes further to tell Usopp that Kaya and her live in different worlds, and thus because of their differences should not interact on that merit alone, which is ridiculous. So rightfully, Kaya calls him out and demands him to apologize. But Clahador keeps pushing further and further, betraying his calm demeanor, and so Usopp attacks Clahador, punching him in the face. And I must say, man deserved it. Though once again, he unjustly judges Usopp by telling him he's after Kaya for the money, which is clearly not true. And to make matters worse, Kaya tells Usopp to stop using violence against Clahador, which cuts Usopp deep, causing him to storm off, saying he'll never come back. And honestly, dear viewer, I'm gonna be real. I understand where Usopp is coming from, but the guy decides to literally storm off like a child, saying he'll never come back again. I think that what Usopp should have done is called Kaya and Clahador out. He should have told Clahador to stop overstepping his boundaries, apologize for his insults to his father, and as well, because of him implying Kaya is of different status, making her more valuable as a person, and then to Kaya to stop letting him steamroll her and controlling her life. He works for her, not the other way around. But dear viewer, please stick with me, because we're now in the thick of the story. So after this, we get a conversation between Clahador and Kaya in which Clahador explains his origin story. Years ago, he lost his job, making a mistake on a ship, and so with nowhere to turn, Kaya's parents offered him a job as a servant. So because of that, he considers her parents his saviors and has taken a kind of parental role in Kaya's life. Nothing out of the realm of weirdness there. It's cool, I guess. This, though, is when the story starts to take a couple twists as we are introduced to Django, a hypnotist and a pretty weird looking one at that. Can't say the braided beard and heart-shaped glasses are my thing, but, you know, that's my opinion. I think. So to show the kids he's a hypnotist and a legit one, and the reason why he needs to prove it to kids, he hypnotizes the kids to sleep and it works. And maybe a little too well, as he also falls asleep. While that happens, Luffy finds Usopp to tell him in a surprising twist that his father, Usopp, is not dead, but is in fact with the red-haired Shanks pirate group. What a twist! It turns out that Luffy also loved Usopp and was his favorite member of the crew, actually. So he's a fanboy of Big Daddy energy. But while that happens, something crazy occurs. Clahador meets with Django, and it's revealed that Clahador isn't Clahador, he's Captain Kuro! He hid his true identity because Kuro's plan all along was to use Kaya for her money, assassinate her, and then take everything over, along with the village. He did this by disbanding his pirate group so that he could essentially take on an undercover role after Kaya's parents died naturally. How Django plays into this is disturbing. He's going to hypnotize Kaya to write Kuro into her will, and then have Django kill her. So, naturally, Luffy calls them both out, which leads to Django hypnotizing him, causing him to fall off the cliff into the ground head first. Yep. I just said all that. So, Usopp, seeing all this, runs into the village to warn everyone of pirates, and they all collectively groan. Usopp, the dude, has just burned all of his goodwill with these villagers. He literally is the boy that cried pirate. You know what I mean. Beginning of the video, reference. He lied too much. He's now untrustworthy, and it's all his fault. He lied, S.A. The villagers are too fed up, but they even chase him out of the village not knowing he's right all along, and their lives are in danger. So, he has only one person left to go to. Yeah, that's right, Kaya. Once again, Kaya rejects what Usopp is saying. She doesn't believe him. To her, Clahador wouldn't do such a thing as lying to get revenge. Now being thrown out by the guards of the mansion, Usopp makes an attempt to take Kaya with him by force, and for his efforts, he is slapped in the face. And the man shouldn't be surprised by any of that happening. Now leaving and meeting up with Luffy and the gang, he laments the fact and says that this will be just another lie because he's actually going to defend the village from pirates all by himself. And I'll give him this, the guy still isn't giving up on the village that's essentially tried to run him out of town and reject his every word. So respecting this act of heroism, Luffy, Zoro, and Nami all agree together to help Usopp with the pirates. As this is happening, in the mansion, Clahador reveals his true colors as Captain Kuro and crushes the present Kaya gave him and knocks out a fellow servant, revealing his true intentions. And with Django now awake, it's about that time to see how their 3-year plan is working. On the flip side, our heroes have planned a trap for the pirates that are beginning to invade, except they're coming from the North Docks. Something they didn't expect. So, realizing their traps won't work, they need to hurry to save the villagers and Kaya in time. Though, it's Nami, realizing that the ships are docked where they're evading, betrays Zoro by using him to walk over the oil trap that they set. Once again, this shows that Nami, while greatly respecting her comrades, doesn't really quite yet respect her comrades, if you know what I'm saying. She cares, still, way too much about her treasure and runs off on her own, leaving her comrades in a worse position if she would just stick with them. Because think about it, at the end of the day, if they defeat the pirates, her treasure will be safe. That is, if they don't die. But either way, if they do die, it kind of just behooves them to remain patient. Something she's not. But they must push forward without Nami, as Usopp confronts Django, leading off with threatening them with a 100 million man crew. Oh, Usopp, you sad, pointy-nosed, Pinocchio-looking fool. Though they find Nami's treasure, and while Usopp tries to use it as a bargaining tool, Nami eventually shows up and confronts them, demanding them to relinquish their treasure, because she's Nami. Though Nami is pretty smart and pretty. She tells Usopp to not look at his pendulum as he is a hypnotist. Clever girl. Even more clever is that Usopp uses his spikes to slow down Django's men as both Zoro and Luffy recover, trying to make it to docks in time. And honestly, they're not that bad of a team and are able to hold off quite a few of their men until Usopp is overwhelmed by a man using a freaking super sledge. This moment is really cool though, because now with blood covering his face, you realize that Usopp is using his weakness as his strength. The village may have rejected him, and he may be a liar. But at this moment, he wants to make sure this is one of those lies that sticks. Rather telling that Usopp, in dire straits, for a lack of a better term, matures into a man of his own words. Sorta. Of lies. It's weird, but it makes sense, right? And just as Nami and Usopp are overwhelmed, here comes the cavalry. The true heroes have finally arrived. Luffy and Zoro. And then, all hell breaks loose in an epic battle between Luffy and Zoro against Django and his pirate crew. Luffy uses a flurry of techniques from Gomu Gomu Gatling Gun, eliminating a group of enemies in one of the most epic moments I've seen in One Piece yet, takes the bow of Captain Kuro's ship and rips it off the ship, using it as a weapon. But not before Django hypnotizes Luffy as he falls asleep before he's able to use the bow. Sag. While this happens, Captain Kuro, being left waiting too long, heads to the battle awaiting him. I must say that Surat Village so far is quite interesting because we have Captain Kuro, who for so long has been Clahador the servant, and bided his time, coming off as this kind and diligent guy. Even Kaya doesn't realize that Clahador has any ill intent, as he can so very easily, seemingly, manipulate a situation. Plus, it's rather sad that he's become a kind of father figure to Kaya, just so that he can murder her and take her wealth without anyone being none the wiser. It's a horrifying situation. Probably one of the most disgusting things an antagonist has done in One Piece yet to boot. As for Usopp, the man, I hate to say it because of the ramifications of the situation, but he got what was coming to him. A man that makes his reputation out of lying is nothing more than a lie himself. He's a fraud, and that label is earned, in my opinion. Now, I know a lot of people called this arc annoying because of Usopp and Kaya, and I think that's honestly a fair criticism. And obviously, put down in the comments what you think about these two. I'd love to know. But I actually find Usopp's character so fascinating. He's basically the retelling of The Boy That Cried Wolf, but instead of having the story end in a horrifying manner, he rises to the occasion to stop the evil pirates from killing his beloved, and in a twist of fate, taking responsibility for his lie so that he can make sure this is the one lie they actually do shun him for. Because if they figure out that it's not a lie, then the people in the village are gone and Kaya will be murdered. In my opinion, and this may be a hot take, but Usopp is the textbook example of how people can change. At least, that's the story I think they're going to try to tell. Usopp's character is being set up to, essentially, be broken down and rebuilt to understand that he can't keep lying. He needs to grow up and become responsible for the words that he says. Usopp needs to look at the traits that benefit him as a person as well. People will listen to his words because obviously at some point the village people believed his silly words of pirates attacking. And how do we know this? Well, it's as simple as their reactions of anger. Nobody would be angry if a stranger with no reputation told you a lie. Who cares, right? But what if it was someone you respected? Now the tune shifts. We've seen that Kaya is probably the only one that truly understands Usopp and his ways, which is amazing. So what he needs to do is take stock of his character, realize what his good traits are, and that he's a really kind, personable man with the ability to move people with his words, for better or for worse. In other words, he needs to stop using his power for lies, but instead, for good. And that's the key to Usopp's character. That's what's missing. The truth. I urge you all to become a patron on the $4.99 tier, as doing so gets you access to part 2 of this video and my 2-part series on Baratie, which may just be some of the most detailed One Piece videos you'll ever see on this site. That and more is available on my Patreon page. So don't forget it. Links are in the description. Go become a patron member now, or else I'll judo chop you in the damn throat!